Sound of the river, you stop and you hold everything.
5:31 on the Power of Information, KXYL.
Sam Corsi here, Jesse Jones, and Mike
riding in the back seat.
I'm sorry, I keep looking for the eject button, and are you sure it's right down here? Okay. With us now is Hal Graham, and we're going to let our producer here, Mike, explain to you why we got Hal Graham.
Well, just recently, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, up in Niagara Falls, they had a rocket belt convention to celebrate the invention and the proliferation of the rocket belt, or what most people commonly refer to as a jetpack. And Hal Graham was the original rocket man. He's the guy that flew the first rocket belt in untethered flight. And I really wanted to get in touch with this gentleman and find out what the heck were you thinking.
Hal?
Yes, I am here. How are you? And welcome, Mike. I'm glad to be part of your show.
Well, hi, Hal. How are you today?
Well, I'm going to be better. I get a little adrenaline rush every time I talk about those years long ago that had my little 10 minutes of fame.
Well, we are all just dying to know, when the first guy blew out his knee in that tethered flight, why did you strap those things on?
That guy falling on his knee. Oh, you mean Wendell Moore, the original designer?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, I joined the project just the week that he broke his kneecap. And I said, well, what the heck, there's a 44-year-old guy and me, and I get half the flights and he gets half the flights. I got a 50% chance something's going to happen to me. Well, unfortunately, 2 days later, as you know, the safety rope broke and he broke his kneecap, and now I'm back up at 100% of the test flight. So, on top of that, I'm not too bright a guy, okay? I'm kind of a retard in a way.
Now, the rocket belt was actually developed for Bell Aerosystems, and we're talking about 1960, 1961 when this was developed. And your background was not as a pilot, was it? It was as an engineer.
And that's correct. I had been working prior to the belt at Bell in Niagara Falls for a year and a half on the Project Mercury, little rocket thrusters for attitude control of the Mercury capsule. And I was working nights and third shift and 12-hour days. So, Kennedy was in a rush to beat the Ruskies. And so all systems were go to get this Project Mercury and John Glenn up in the air. Anyway, it got to be a social hassle, and I was just worn out, and I essentially quit. And the next week they invited me back to look at this project. It was a day job, okay, and that's a big plus, and it looked kind of exciting. Hey, I'm a young kid, 27.
Now, does your perspective on rocketry change when you go from the guy sending other people up to the guy that's got to put one on your back?
Well, there's always a risk with these state-of-the-art stuff and pressuring new horizons and stuff. But it worked out okay, except for the one occasion, and it was fun. Hey, come on, that's doing something new, something different, and something that is exciting, and I enjoyed it.
Well, now the one occasion that you speak of, was that a test flight in front of President Kennedy?
No. That one was in Life magazine and newsreels and all kinds of stuff. That was not it.
But the incident that you spoke of, you went up and the rocket quit working, and you discovered that the human body pretty much flies like a brick without assistance.
Well spoken.
And you landed on your head, right?
I landed on my head. I will not take credit. I will take credit for stupidity in taking off from that platform that had 3 sides to the bottom and nothing in the front, and the exhaust gas went out the front and took my feet with them, and I toppled over the back and came down 22 feet, landing on my head. and unconscious for 30 minutes. And right about then, I thought, maybe accounting's a nice profession.
Well, now, was there any way to test these without, using something else besides a human? Could you strap it on a barrel or whatever to try and see if it would propel that up?
Oh yeah, they've done that. Getting it up is no problem. You have a weight and you have a thrust, and you make them equal and a little more thrust, and you go up. And they did that with a plaster of Paris dummy.
Oh, okay.
Early on, even before Wendell strapped it on.
And how did you? What kind of controls did you have over it?
Well, you had obviously every direction of control. You had the thrust, going up, coming down. You had if you wanted to go forward, you lean down on the control tubes, and the exhaust vector pushes a little bit backwards, and you go forward. And they have side to side. You can do the same thing. You're essentially directing the thrust by the controls. The only bad part, Mike, was the yaw control, which means turning left on a vertical axis or right, and that's not very intuitive. It was on a motorcycle grip on the left-hand side, and with everything else you had going through your mind at the time, it sounds kind of dumb, but do I turn it left or right? I did a bunch of pirouettes and demonstrations, let me put it that way.
Now, was there any way to practice this before you were aloft, or did you have to learn this on the fly?
Well, it's pretty much on the fly, Mike. They had some little cathode ray tubes and little simulated thruster. You sit at a desk and go, make the little dot go up or make the dot go down. But the proof of the bottom line is, it took me 36 flights to get proficient in this, and besides, they were making adjustments in the equipment at that time, and 36 flights is almost a month's work just to get to free flight stage, and a lot of the work had done up there with Wendell's tethered flights.
Now, we know the Army decided it wasn't worth anything, but then again, the Army has been known to do some strange things. Do you think that had you been able to keep going, that you would have been able to finally make this thing viable?
Well, Mike, bottom line, this is a great grabber, a great attention grabber at state fairs and, football, wherever you want to, gas the audience. This is great. If you want to cross a minefield or you want to climb tall buildings and save a baby from a fire, it's not going to cut it. Okay, the 21-second duration is, and the safety feature and the load, you can't carry an additional load. There's so many constraints on it, but the Army got one bunch of advertising out of it. I mean, Bell too made zillions in advertising exposure.